I'm now joined by a disabled campaigner who has been directly affected by these cuts. Paula Peters from Disabled People Against Cuts National Steering Committee. Paula, thanks for joining us here in the studio. Now, you suffer from bipolar disorder and rheumatoid arthritis. Yep. Can you just give us an idea in what way have you been affected by these cuts?
I lost a great friend of mine called Carol in December 2010 who took her own life after being found fit for work by the work capability assessment, which is part of the process around employment and support allowance. And I was suffering terribly from her death and very worried and traumatised about when I was going to be assessed and not knowing when that was going to happen. And I developed a terrible fear of the brown envelope, which is what Department of Work and Pensions letters come in, and white letters, white envelopes, which is what the assessors, Atos, and now Maximus letters come in. So you never knew when you were going to be assessed, and the stress and the fear had a massive contributory factor into my being admitted as an inpatient into my local psychiatric unit.
So just give us an idea, the results of that assessment would mean what? A cut in financial help?
Yeah, you could be found fit for work and completely lose all of your support. Then you'd have to go onto job seekers allowance, and then you face a regime of being sanctioned. You could be put into the work-related activity group, which means you're found fit to work in the future, and also be under the threat of being sanctioned. And in the, as we call it, the RAG group, 64% of claimants in that group who have been sanctioned have mental health claimants to date. Or you can be put into the support group, which means you're not fit for any work-related activity. So in 2011, I was hospitalised for 3 months, and I couldn't, the doctors actually said that I wasn't allowed to be told the words DWP, Ian Duncan Smith, or anything to do with the work capability centre, because I was too traumatised by the whole process.
Right, what's your group doing about this? And were you linked in any way to this potential visit, or in fact this promised visit by a UN human rights lawyer?
I actually gave evidence to the UN in 2013, which is when DPAC actually contacted the UN and put in a complaint to the UN Convention Committee for the Rights of People with Disabilities to say that human rights abuses were happening here for disabled people. And it should be pointed out that disabled people have borne the brunt of the cuts 9 times more than any other group.
Well, we've had the reaction, though, from Tory MPs, for example, that this has got absolutely nothing to do with the UN. They shouldn't be sticking their nose into this. What do you hope will come as a result of this UN visit?
I think it has very much a lot to do with the UN, actually, as released last week, where the benefit-related death statistics, people are dying over the cuts. They're being made homeless, and they're using food banks to eat.
Just ask you, the DWP have acknowledged that people have died after having their benefits cut, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're dying as a result of the cuts.
I totally disagree with that. As said, my friend died in complete distress and fear. I've lost 21 of my friends to the welfare reforms. Many of them died in dreadful distress due to the stress and the fear that the worry of being assessed caused, and also as a result of being found fit for work, left with no money, couldn't afford to eat or heat their homes. So yes, a lot of people have died as a direct result of the cuts to their social security, and it should be said to their care packages, because the UN are also here to look at the cuts to the Independent Living Fund, which has had a huge detrimental effect on disabled people, especially those who were in receipt of the ILF, which closed on the 30th of June.
Paula, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Paula Peters, live here in the studio at RT UK.